So the Tennessee Titans are giving Vic Beasley a 1-year deal. It's worth just under $10 million, and I think it's an interesting move. I think that Beasley is one of those guys where, his second season, he had 16 sacks and was looking great, but since then, he hasn't really been able to regain that form. He then had 7 sacks in 2017, then 6 sacks, and then 9 sacks last season. So, not terrible by any means, but at the same time, not exactly what you were hoping for after he had 16 sacks in just his second year. Now, an element of this is just the fact that he tends to, for the most part, when he's in the backfield, he tends to get the sack. His pressure to sack ratio is a bit higher than your average player, so that's a part of it. It's just, he was due for some regression, but at the same time, Beasley is still a pretty good player. Maybe, it's debated on how much he's actually worth money-wise, but I do think he will add some value to Tennessee. I really do. And in fact, when you watch him win, it looks amazing. Like, his wins look great. And this play will be an example of one. So he's going to be going up one-on-one against the left tackle right here. And so, several things you could do right now. But what he's going to do is try to get around a tackle. So he's going to try to get further to the right side of the screen than where the tackle is. Try to get around him that way. But what's interesting is look at how far around that tackle he's willing to go. I mean, look at how far he moves over. So at this point, if you're a tackle, you can't really get the hand placement that you'd like. I mean, ideal hand placement would be really that left arm could get on Beasley's right shoulder pad, and then your right hand can sort of be on his pec. But at the same time, you can't really get that far over. And also notice how that offensive lineman is sort of lunging over, trying to get to be in position to block Beasley, but it's just not working out too well. Beasley is far enough around, but of course there's the flip side where yes, Beasley is taking a lot of effort to get around, but at this point, all you have to do as a tackle is just kind of push him a little bit, and Beasley has a long way to go to try to get to the quarterback. However, Carolina's tackle isn't able to push him at all. Beasley runs straight through and not only gets to the quarterback, but knocks the ball out. I mean, just a great play. He has that speed that really does factor in, and that's a huge reason why he is able to be somewhat successful, and he is strong enough that he's not going to get pushed around unless you have the good hand placement or good feet placement, but sometimes it's hard to get with his speed, so that's how he's able to be a fringe double-digit sack guy, even though, again, he's not getting 16 sacks anymore. But you know what? There's still a lot of value in a guy who could potentially get 10 sacks. And it really isn't just his speed. I mean, his speed definitely helps, but it's not just his speed. He can use power as well, and he knows when to use power. Like a play like this, it's actually a tight end who's blocking him on this one, so it makes total sense that if a tight end is going to block you straight up one-on-one, well, at that point, then you might as well just try to use power. So notice how he does try to get around him a little bit, but he's just going to initiate the contact himself. He puts his right arm to the inside of that tight end's body. He's deciding that he's going to initiate this contact, and he's going to try to just use power right here. This is not a move that you can use speed or footwork. This is just, I'm going to try to push you back, and that's how I'm going to try to win this matchup. And that's exactly what he's able to do. He even knocks the ball out, although a Carolina offensive lineman was very aware, realized what was going on, and was able to make sure that it wasn't a disaster. But at the same time, I mean, that's what Beasley can do. He's probably best known for being a speed guy, but he absolutely has power. And, there's value in that. Again, the speed is what comes into it. He's going to beat great tackles, not by having great power, but by having great speed. But if you give him a favorable matchup, he can definitely thrive. I also thought this play was interesting, where you see what happens is that he's going to be getting blocked by a tight end once again, but this actually isn't that terrible of a situation because it's going to be play action, and Beasley is going to fall for this play action pretty badly. I mean, you see, there's initially the contact, and then he tries to break in to try to clog up a gap, but now at this point, he has realized, oh, there is no gap there because this isn't a running play, this is play action. So this, not exactly the situation that I was preparing for, and now this is actually a bad situation. And so at this point, there's several things he could do. He could just continue running in that direction, but now there's a halfback who could potentially block him. There's a tight end in the area who could also block him. The tight end who's already blocking him. So you're basically just running into a double team if you do that. So, well, that's what most people would do just because you got to try and do something. Beasley quickly realizes what's going on, and he's going to then break to the other side. He quickly realized it, was able to do it, and even runs over and is able to help be a part of a sack on that one. And that's just a really good play by Beasley, a really aware play by Beasley. So, I talked about the two most important things in an edge rusher, which is speed and power. He's pretty good at both of those things, and he's also a pretty aware player. He doesn't really have a ton of flaws. I think he might be the best player that people think is over the hill, and he's probably the best player that people will say, what happened to player X? People say all the time, what happened to Vic Beasley? He was supposed to be so great. Well, he's still solid. I mean, he's still pretty good. Like, I don't think again, it's part of the narrative. He hasn't lived up to the hype necessarily, but hey, still pretty good player. And one of the things that makes him so deadly, and this is something that Tennessee will absolutely have him do a lot when he joins their team, is twist. He can be great at a twist, at a stunt, whatever you want to call it. This is an example of it where an edge rusher, or excuse me, a interior lineman is going to run over, and he's going to run in between a center and right guard. And then what's going to happen is that Beasley is just going to run like that. He's going to run just past the center. And this can do several different things. But in a perfect world, what happens is that since the center is going to be making sure that he covers up the interior lineman, then when Beasley runs around the center, then potentially, he could have an opening. Like, watch, right when the ball is snapped, you notice that a tackle is making sure that he is blocking Beasley because that's what you're supposed to do. But for Beasley, he could try to just get around a tackle, but let's be honest, against the Saints, trying to just get around a tackle, not the best idea. But there is a gap right there where he could just run over and just run through that gap. And so that's what Beasley does. He gets there quickly and also has quite the sack as well. It looked like what the wrestler, the Edge, just spearing somebody right there with that one. That was quite the sack, to say the least. I mean, that's just a fun play. It shows off his speed and also just, the kind of tackle I would not want to be getting tackled by. Granted, I don't think I could survive any NFL player tackling me, but that's besides the point. Let's show another example. This one is going to be against Jacksonville, so, someone he will play twice a year, barring an injury. Well, what's going to happen on this one is that it starts off, it's basically the exact same play, where interior lineman runs in between. This time it's a guard and tackle because they have 5 guys on the line instead of 4, but then Beasley runs around like that, tries to run in, see if there's an opening. It's going to work out, but watch how quickly Beasley gets there. Again, just that speed. He barely gets touched and is quickly able to get a sack. That's what he can do. I mean, I do expect them to run a lot of twists, a lot of stunts with Vic Beasley for the Tennessee Titans. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's somebody who can, he has speed, so let's use his speed to our advantage. Let's hopefully make these types of things work out well. That's not to say he can't be effective in other ways. As I showed, he was a smart player. I think that he definitely does have some power, but if I'm going to give him one main attribute that I like about him, it is his speed, and he's showing that he can be a very effective player when he uses speed. And so then I think the question becomes, was this a good decision? Is this a good move? And it's interesting. I mean, I do think that there is some value here. Again, on one hand, it's kind of a low-risk situation because it's just a 1-year deal, and maybe they do feel like he can become a 10-digit sack guy, not a 10-digit sack guy, a 2-digit sack guy for him. But if they can do that, and if he can be that successful, I do think that there is some real value there. Again, you could debate, was it worth getting rid of Casey to get him? I just don't know, but we can wait and see, because I think there definitely is some logic to it. But, I mean, it's this thing where it's like, Tennessee, they're trying to be good right now. They want to win a Super Bowl next year. I mean, that's the idea. They were a win away from going to a Super Bowl last year, so they definitely want to be competitive, and we'll see. I mean, I do think that we don't know how long this window is going to be open, just because Derrick Henry, he's a running back. Who knows how long he'll stay healthy, how long he'll stay elite. And so it can definitely be debated if this is a good move or not. It definitely can. I think I do understand both sides from it. But I think that if you don't like the move, you probably just don't like the moves that Tennessee has made this offseason in general, and not so much this decision in general, because if you have $10 million to spend, you could use an edge rusher. This move makes a lot of sense to me, and I mean, even if he's not like an elite edge rusher, he can at least be a very good rotational guy that can come in and get you some solid snaps and potentially get you 10 sacks, which is very valuable. So I'll say that definitely in a vacuum, I like this move, and I kind of like what the Tennessee Titans have done for the most part this offseason in general. I've kind of gone up and down. I didn't love losing Casey, but at the same time, they have come somewhat close to replacing his value in Vic Beasley, in my opinion. In their opinion, they probably feel like they've more than replaced his value, so we'll wait and see. I'd like to know what you guys think. What do you think of this move? Is it a good move? Is it a bad move? Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.